Hey everybody, it's Nathan from savagelandsnews, and we're back with a guest who's been here before. He's a very known name in the brute community, right? You see him running around. He's the coldest pad thai of any cold pad thai on the planet, and he is like what, four-time in a row Pro Quest winner up in Spokane at this point in time. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy. And this time he did it on Rhinar. And you were 8-0 this time, right? Like
yeah.
undefeated. Undefeated. That's wild. So everybody give him a round of applause. It's Drew Bosco, the man, the myth, the legend, the cold pad tie in the Discord. You've seen him around in the purple Discord, the SLN Discord. You've seen him giving you guys lists whenever you're lacking the creativity to, to come up with your own. He's a very cool guy. So how you doing today, dude?
I'm doing great.
You doing great?
Reiner's treating me good lately.
He's always kind of treated you pretty well, man. He's always treated you really well. Because you are at Worlds, and I remember I wasn't paying full attention, or not Worlds. Was it Worlds? But I saw your
I,
name as the highest placed Rhinar. I think day one, right? Like you were up there with Pintor. What's making you stay with him, loyal after all of these new brutes get all of their new superpowers? Levia gets all her new cards. Kayo comes out. Obviously, immediately passes all the other brutes on the Living Legend leaderboard. So, what's been making you stay with Rhinar so far?
I feel like Reinar has this flexibility that the other brutes just don't. So, what I really like about him is that I can mold the list into whatever I need it to be.
Mhm.
So, if my list before this current one that I have that I've been finding more success on, it was really intim heavy, and I really like the intim heavy. I've been playing intim heavy most of the season. What I really like about like the intim heavy list is that like you can feels like you're cheating at times, especially if you go first. Azalea cheats with like here's 10 drill shot dominate turn zero, and we
Yeah.
cheat with like here's 13 triple intim, you know, cry about it.
Yeah.
Um, and like man, we just got so much good armor now. My current list is not running as intim heavy, but there's still uh, like I'm not running Rainbow Barraging anymore, and I'm not running the blue Intim cards except for Barraging Beatdown because
Okay.
cards cracked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the flexibility. The other two brutes, you are kind of forced to do certain hands,
Mm-hmm.
play certain hands certain ways. With KO, you're really stuck with like, okay, here's two non blocks and a blue and a red or something. And you're like, okay, this hand is probably block with the red that I can block with, and then play out these cards that I wish blocked. And
Yeah.
with Rhinar, it's like I have the flexibility to just choose if I want to dump 3 to 4 cards out of this hand in blocking value, and then Arsenal the last one, or not Arsenal, whatever you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then Levia has a similar issue where not only does she have non-blocks, but once you start the blood debt, you can't stop the blood debt.
Yeah.
You got to keep going. And I've played all the brutes, and I've struggled with those two aspects of each of those heroes. I kept dying to blood debt, couldn't do it. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a skill diff for sure, but I also just don't want to do it.
Yeah. It is really annoying when I've played all three. I guess also plenty of times. I've played all of them, brutes forever. But
Yeah,
yeah, it is a challenge to play Levia, right? Because like sometimes a hand will just show up where you're like, I really, really wish I could just block. Like this hand doesn't have the value. It isn't here, or this on hit is like so devastating that like I really just don't want to give up my arsenal or whatever. And then, but you can't, like you said, the blood debt train has started, and if you don't, if you don't keep going, you'll just implode and die anyways. So,
yeah,
yeah, I feel that. KO the same way. My first time I brought KO to my RTN after coming back into the game, and it was just like these non-blocking hands that don't pitch and then playing these draw discard cards and hitting your cast bones, and it's like
yeah,
or playing cast bones and somehow only hitting like four. It's like
yeah,
it's just too much for me. It's too much for me.
yeah. Like I already have to roll dice, and
Yeah.
not even have to. Like I minimize my dice rolling so much,
Mm.
but those two heroes, they have all that extra stuff on top of that. And Rhinar, you really get to choose how reckless you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. He's the reckless rampage. You can choose.
Exactly.
It's on a scale.
Yep.
And he's also, like you said, the most malleable hero, I guess, out of the three because Leviah comes with blood debt, so therefore you need to run blood debt cards. Otherwise, she stops working. KO's hero ability really just says like, I need more value out of Wild Ride and Bear Fangs, so you're kind of like pushed into that avenue. And as soon as you run those cards, you can't play D Reacts, right? And
You
Rhinar's always
can't.
been cool because it's like I just want to play D-React's club list today, or I feel like throwing 7 generics in my list, and it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? As long as you have your blues and your blood rush and your claws, you're good. So, how do you find the KO like the brute mirrors right now? Because that's one of the biggest deterrents from playing Rhinar. I think right now is like the fear of running into the other brutes, right? Because they kind of do what you do, but with more damage typically. So,
Yeah.
like, how do you navigate that?
I've decided to pivot to. So this is kind of like where why I ended up on the list I ended up on. I am not willing to play those other brutes for the aforementioned reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
it just hurts my soul too much to do it.
Yep.
But I also feel like Rhinar can play to his strengths, which is I'm allowed to play defense reactions. I'm allowed to play defensively. I can wait all game, and he has this cool thing called Romping Club that is
Yeah.
pretty good turn to turn. So in those matchups, my old list, I was trying to race them essentially, like
Yeah.
get really good blocks, like try to block them out, do what you can, wait for them to have a Moby turn, use your flesh bag the better than they do.
Mm.
All these things that are really hard to actually line up correctly. Like the flesh bag piece is really hard because they also have flesh bag.
Yeah.
So like, hi, I flesh bagged you. I got like 8 value plus the 2 block. And they're like, okay, cool, but the moment you do anything, I'm also gonna flesh bag you.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt much worse because you were really relying on your damage, your blood rush combo to
Yeah.
convert. So what I ended up on was, a romping club list where like I'm straight up blocking with blood rush. Like the card it's a yellow block 3.
Yeah.
If I have a wide hand, then sure I'll play it, but I don't need to at all. In those matchups, in other matchups, it's still just as important as it has been forever. So yeah, I'm just trying to be defensive now. You get flesh bag. Like if there was a guardian that had flesh bag, it'd be cracked. It'd be so good.
It's true.
And
Yeah.
Rhinar can play green guardian, use flesh bag defensively to mitigate much damage, and then send back like a CNC and pummel, and then you're eating pretty well.
Yeah. So you're pivoting your play style a little bit from the tried and true Blood Rush claws because, like you said, the other brutes kind of do that basically at this point better. You know what I mean? Like we have intimidate, which is great. It's force damage. We're still the anti-fatigue or the anti-turtle hero. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, KO does more damage on every turn than you do, and then can keep up with your or your blood rush damage, right?
Yeah.
Because if they get their go again in their pocket, then they do have a blood rush on the same level that we do, and they did more damage than you the entire game. So you're just kind of really hoping you draw your blood rushes faster.
Yeah, that's been the basic strategy, or like I've been trying to like it's been like play blood rush number 1, it's gonna suck because of flesh bag, and then play blood rush 2 and 3, hopefully on the same turn after that, and then
Yeah.
but that's a terrible, like that's not a consistent strategy at all to be like, now if I draw all 3 of my blood rushes before I'm dead, it's like, how about we draw the first one? That's already hard enough.
It's the Lexi strategy, you know?
Yeah.
Well, just hope I draw 3 blood rushes in 3 turns, you know?
Yeah, if I just roll a 6 on this turn.
Yeah, just roll the 6. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a really solid idea. And it also, weirdly, probably helps a lot of Reinar's worst matchups because you could always fatigue, or not fatigue, but you could always club down ninjas. Like,
Yep.
it works pretty well. Like, Katsu has a hard time if you club him down. Do you club into only the brutes, or what matchups do you club into?
More than I thought I initially would. It's
Yeah.
definitely any aggro matchup that I'm like, man, I don't want to. It's so hard to actually compete with the damage these decks do. I'm just like, I'm just gonna play club and
You're just
8D
gonna club
reacts,
him.
6 to 8D reacts, and it's
Just
pretty good. It's really good. The Warriors, I'm still claws because no matter how much you club them, they're just gonna with Dynamo, they're just gonna stay alive. It's not gonna work.
So one card
So
block on club, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
but I think you can pitch stack them pretty reasonably. I think Kasai is still a hard matchup, but you can put together like some Alpha Rampage unfair stuff, and I think you can get there.
So What would you say right now are your worst matchups?
I mean, even with the switch to club, those are still hard matchups, like the other brutes.
Hmm.
But you get quite a bit of points by playing defensively,
Yeah.
for like two different reasons. Like one, they're expecting you to go aggro. So until this is like, unless this becomes like Rhinar's main strategy or something, like the meta would have to shift a lot, and people's perceptions of Rhinar have to shift a lot for them to not treat the matchup like a race.
Yeah.
Uh, and then you flip club, and they're like, "What?
Yeah.
You're doing that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing that." And then, yeah, I mean, honestly, because of the club and all the D reacts, it's made a lot of those matchups so much better. Like,
Yeah.
I would never say favored, but it's like a true 50-50.
Because I would say normal Rhinar has like it's pretty close because like most of the time when I lost to KO it felt close unless they did something wild, like one of those
Yeah,
crazy like cast bones turn one into something stupid turn two.
yeah,
Um it always felt close, but it was like you said, it was like I was one hopeful play away from winning and I didn't quite find my hopeful play. They found their blood rushes faster, whatever.
yeah,
Kasai seems really hard to beat just as a brute as a Rhinar player. It just seems really hard to beat Kasai because she's just so value. She has so much value, and then she can do the really really big turn, you know.
yeah. I
So,
think
but
it's really key to like make sure she doesn't get too much copper.
yeah,
Like, if she gets to like gold is like whatever.
yeah,
I'm not worried about raising army.
mm,
I'm still playing Claused in that matchup. If they raise an army, I'm like, sweet. That's so much less for me to worry about. I'll just roll scabs a couple times, see what happens,
yeah.
or just ignore them altogether and keep going. But Blood on Her Hands is a hell of a card. Like, it is.
God, it's crazy.
It, yeah, you gotta block out the copper. I think that's the most important thing.
That's what I was thinking too, right? Like that final turn is always really what is hard. So you got like skill check into brutes. You've probably got like a maybe slightly disadvantageous maybe fit skill check into Kasai, right?
Mhm.
I felt Dory was a little easier on Rhinar. Just then, I mean, then Kasai, just because she doesn't have that explosive turn at the end to kill you. So, how do you feel into the rest? I mean, you're just playing normal Rhinar at that point, so Guardians are probably fine, right?
Yeah, it's just
Um,
fine as always.
yeah, Guardians are probably fine. How's your Azalea matchup right now? Probably really good, I would guess.
It's actually good for the first
Oh,
time. My partner plays. She's been maining Azalea for this year,
mm-hmm.
and oh my gosh. So we're playing. I'm playing her the most often, and it was just like, oh man, you're just killing me on Azalea every game when I try to go aggro.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then I was like, I'm also losing all my other aggro matchups, or nearly losing, or it's just like too close, or that kind of like what you were saying with those KO matches. Like,
Yeah,
oh man, just like 2 damage away.
yeah,
So I saw other Rhinar lists were running like 3 Warmongers, and I'm like, oh, I better do that. I was only
yeah,
running 2, and I
yeah.
was like, let's just put in 3. Like, she's a real deck. She's everywhere.
Yeah, my
uh,
ProQuest was like 5 of them this last weekend. It's crazy.
it's honestly strong enough just to throw like Pack Hunt Pummel. It just taking a card out of her hand is good enough. And then CNC Pummel is just so much better.
Oh
But
yeah,
you also have Send Packing Pummel, so like we get to be the class that gets to do the Arsenal Destruction plus Pummel.
mm-hmm.
It's a lot more costly to do Send Packing, but like the new Brute card coming out, Strength Rules All. I'm
Oh, that
looking at
card's
that.
so good.
Yep, it's going to replace the Skull Crack on my list, 100%.
Yeah, that card's really good.
It's really
Um,
good.
and what's really interesting is like I've been messing around with Awakening Bellow, just because like I don't know, it always does three, right? There's a lot of decks who
Yeah,
don't mind giving you two cards, and so that card in Awakening Bellow is wild. Also,
yep.
like CNC send packing with Awakening Bellow. That's like you're starting to send CNCs for 9.
Is it in your next attack action or next Brute attack action?
Next brute attack action.
Okay, so not CNC, but the other two
Sorry,
for
a
sure.
send packing and the new one. The new one.
And the
Yeah,
new one, yeah.
the
Okay,
new
I
one.
was like, oh man, this card's way better
No,
than I
if it
thought.
was non brute, then it would be the most busted thing in the world because then we'd just be
Yeah,
seeing like amnesias and humbles and send packings for
mhm,
9 intimidate.
yeah.
I'm
Money
really
weird
liking it.
wording would be crazy on that.
Yeah. What do you think of the new cards? I mean, obviously the KO set's good for KO, right? I think it's going to
Yeah.
push KO pretty hard. What do you think of the
Mhm.
new cards for Rhinar?
Run roughshod is kind of rough. I don't think it's that good for Rhinar. I think his blues offer so much flexibility. Like, you're either using them for intimidate or you're using them the way I use them, which is for niche defensive or like opportunistic high value cards.
Yeah.
So for that, for me, it's like Ripple Away is a huge winner in my deck. I love the cards so much.
Yeah.
It. I played Azalea round 3 in my ProQuest, and she went Lace with Frailty, Lace with Inertia, Codex of Frailty. In response to the Codex, Ripple Away. They don't get the Ponder. I don't get any of the disease tokens at all this turn.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So Ripple Away says instant discard this until end of turn. Whenever an action card would create one or more tokens, it creates one. It creates that many tokens -1.
I have it on my desk. I thought it said I thought it said action card. I thought it was one target.
Oh, nope. No, it's all action cards all turn.
It's going in my head. All right. Well, it's on my desk because I was like, Ripple Away is lit. And then I like just never tested it. Damn.
It's like super. It's really good.
Damn.
I was playing it when it released because I was looking at Bravo and I was like, this seems really good in Bravo for like the defensive side. And then on top of that, I was like, plus it's fun because my deck name can be Rippling Crush. But
that's fun.
So I enjoyed that from like day one. And then at some point I'm like, I should try this in Rhinar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is so good. And it just I keep finding more things that it's good with. Like I think it's already somewhat well known, but like Cast Bones, it messes up Cast Bones really hard. They get 1 less might, 1 less agility, which is all the agility that they want. If you make them go first, which is what you want in Rhinar typically, and they're like, okay, well, I am going to make the agility token. I'm going to say you're not going to make the agility token, so I'm going to Ripple Away you on turn 0, which is what happened in my quarterfinals. So just like making them repeat their agility making for a whole turn, like it makes their turn so much worse.
Stop
like the best thing you do
for a little bit. So okay, so the blue's not going to be good, right? Like, but what do you think about the other ones? Sash and
right. Sash is really good. I think an aggressive Rhinar list, or especially agility focused Rhinar list, which I've seen around, I think it's absolutely bonkers. It's 100% what you want to be doing in those decks.
Yeah.
I think in my list, I would still play it. I'm trying to figure out exactly where. Like maybe I take out 1 Alpha Rampage, or honestly, I might even try taking out Remembrance, see if that is a good idea. Might not be, but the card is good. Like, if you're running Savage Feast and you're trying to do Savage Feast plays, it's kind of insane.
Yeah, 0 for 6 go again. It's absolutely correct.
Yeah, and it's not that hard to line up agility in Savage Feast. You Savage Feast in Arsenal and you wait, and then oh, look at that! I'm such a mastermind.
yeah.
And then what's the last card? Strength Rules All is the one I'm most excited for, because originally I was just really excited for Savage Sash. Like when I was playing aggro, pretty much only aggro. Like I only had 3 sync belows in my entire list before this list. So I was just like, I don't want to play D-Reacts, I want to attack people. I was like, Savage Sash is going to save me. It's my liberation. I can finally block Azalea. But now I'm like, oh, no, this is fine. But Strength Rules All is like, oh my god, this thing's insane. I'm going to pummel this thing. I'm going to eat up like Spinal Crush out of Arsenal. Like, that's crazy.
And it comes in for 8 on a Blood Rush. Like, come on. Like, that's
if you actually intim combo with this thing too, like it could be coming in for like, beat down, do that. That's so mean.
That's why I was looking at Awakening Bellow. It was like, man, just like a 3-card play for 9, kill your Arsenal, like give me your whole hand. It's just wild. That card's so strong. I mean, clearly it's not as good as CNC in most occasions, I guess, because like Warriors pretty much can ignore the card permanently, but on a Blood Rush, that is a very powerful card, right?
Oh yeah,
it's a very, very powerful card. Most heroes don't have 6 power attacks, which means that like if you end that on a Blood Rush, they have to give you at least a card in armor, at least to save the Arsenal.
Yeah, and the more we take up armor, the better that game's going for us.
Yeah.
Where otherwise it would have been a skull crack for me. So it would have been just pure vanilla damage, and I can do without the discard for the most part because it's going to make a huge difference in my ninja and ranger matchups, and potentially even in the brute matchups too. Like You pump, a lot of the time they'll say, okay, it's 6. I have a 6 in arsenal. It's not going to kill it. I
Yeah.
think that's how it works, right? It has to be less than the
Yeah, it has to
damage.
be less than, I
I don't
believe.
think
I'll
it's.
check.
I'm actually going to check it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check right now because it is a good card and we should know what it does.
Yeah. Time to
Banish
put
an
a
attack
fabric.
action card with less than the damage dealt that way. Yep.
Okay, so you hit them for 6. They reveal a 6 out of their arsenal. They reveal a wild ride. It's not getting destroyed, or banished or whatever.
And
So,
there's coming for 7 too, so it's especially not getting banished.
oh yeah, it'd flip up as a 7.
Yep.
So the big thing here is like, okay, 8 exactly hits their 6s,
Yep.
and then on top of that, if you pummel this stuff, it's gonna hit anything in their deck.
Yeah, comes in for 12, so it kills Swing Big. Because Swing Big would
Oh, well,
be
yeah.
9.
If you pummel it on a blood rush, which
That's 10.
is
Sorry. It comes in for 10,
it's a
and
little
Swing
Christmas
Big
lamp,
would
but
count as 9.
yeah,
Yeah. So even
but
hits Swing Big.
that's exactly it.
No,
Yep,
that's good. That's
it
good.
sounds good.
I'm liking it. I'm liking this pummel strategy you got. I didn't really even get that far to think about pummel. I was just like nerding out on Awakening Bellow Intim list. So it's a great idea.
Mhm.
So you think it's a? Do you think it is as much a buff to Rhinar as it is to Kayo, or do you think Kayo is going to skyrocket right now?
I think that the strength rules all piece is really good for
Mm-hmm.
my current Rhinar list. I think it'll make it like I'm not switching to off Rhinar anytime soon. Strength
Mm-hmm.
rules all only pushes me further into the deck.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, anything if something going to switch me off Rhinar, it's just because I want to play other things for fun
Yeah.
at my armory level. But in terms of like what I bring for a qualifier or for a tournament, like it's going to be Rhinar for the foreseeable future. And strength rules all just pushes me further into like, wow, this is going to be crazy.
Mm.
Hitting like ninja, I was already winning my Katsu matchups pretty decently because of the abundance of arsenal disruption I had. And now we have another one, and it costs 2,
Yeah, it's
which
gonna
is like
be.
perfect pummel stats. So it just feels perfect for him right now.
Yeah, it's gonna mess up Azalea pretty bad. It's gonna mess up Ninja
Yeah,
really bad. It's gonna hurt.
it's
Yeah,
gonna
I
hurt
think
Ninja.
my only concern is just how strong KO gets. Because like if he gets that strong, then
I
like you
think that we're
can't.
all living.
Yeah, we're all living through. But it's just if it really pushes him that high, then we got another Lexi, and then we know what happens when that happens. It's
Yeah, the thing is, like, KO doesn't offer disruption very often, and the thing that really made Lexi really, really hard to play against was that she was playing 5 power disruptive attacks like 3 times a turn.
yeah,
That was what hurt the most. Like, I would just take if it was just vanilla damage from Lexi, I'd almost always be happy to take it because I know that the next thing is going to be 5 threatening 7 to 20.
yeah,
Like value. So it was always a dance with Lexi of like, am I gonna be able to even like block efficiently? And if I don't block efficiently, then I'm gonna get hurt by inertia or by frailty, or right? Like because there's Rhinar really loves to play this thing where it's like, I'm gonna block with 3 cards and then Arsenal Blood Rush. And against Lexi, she'd be like, well, actually, you're getting an inertia after you've already blocked with 3 cards.
yep,
Or, oh, you blocked with 3 cards. Okay, time to Codex. So
yep.
discard that flush you're holding on to. And it was just a nightmare. KO doesn't do that at all.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
not
much
even a
more
little.
fair.
Yeah. And we also have a Scouting Flesh Bag and Hold a Line and Ripple Away. Like, we have so many actual options of counterplay against KO that we never had with Lexi.
Okay, so you're not concerned. You're feeling confident. You're feeling good.
I'm feeling pretty good. I think that there's enough counterplay with the way I'm currently doing it where I
Mm.
don't feel I think it's a 50-50. And it
Okay.
just depends on if they draw extremely hot or if I make really bad decisions. And I don't
Okay.
plan on bad decisions typically.
That's funny. Okay. Okay. So we're feeling good. So Rhinar, you're pretty locked in. You're feeling good about Rhinar right now. You like the way your club list is going. You said you're probably playing him in the next big event. So is there Miss Fail's about to drop right now. It's a very interesting set because it brings in two of my least favorite Rhinar matchups historically, right? Ninjas have never been that great, Granted, we got it pretty down to a science, I think, at this point. And illusionists, another class that historically Rhinar has been pretty good into, but I hate them. And then we got an
Bring
assassin. And Rhinar does like his blues, and that assassin likes to get rid of your blues. So how are you feeling about Mistveil with Rhinar? Are you feeling okay?
I'm feeling okay. I think that the Crouching Tiger Ninja could be difficult.
Oh yeah.
Just historically thinking about like, the old Fi matchups and stuff. I think maybe I'm just tiny bit traumatized from the old Fi terror days, belittle days and stuff, where it's just like I can't win this. But that was also when we were running only Crown of Providence, Crown of Providence tunic, scab skin, and God, our best armor after that was like Skull Crushers for like actual armor.
Yeah.
It was pretty miserable. And now we have Flesh Bag, which is great into ninjas, and Apex Bone Breaker, which gives us break points on those extra arsenal disruption cards now, like Zen Packing and the new Strength Rules all and CNC. There's just so many better options that we can do now. If he becomes a terror, and if the Spectral Shield, like if we get like a blue Minaris kind of thing going, where it's like here's a bunch of tiny Spectral Shield Kadachis, then I think we have more generics that we can try out, like This Round's on Me. I would look into that. Crouching Tigers, if they're an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I feel the same. I'm worried. I'm always hesitant about blue. The idea of blue heroes kind of makes me a little nervous because, like, if they're good, they don't truly have really much of a weakness because every one of their cards pitches perfectly, and they have like unlimited arcane barrier, and they're doing really well. Kind of like Icelander felt that way. It was like, what is her weakness right now? Like she's just
her weakness was having 4 less life, and that was about
it. Yeah,
It's just crappy armor, but her hero ability was so good it didn't matter.
Yeah, and her cards were stacked, right? She just had blues practically the whole deck. So it was like she was so flexible and never really struggled with like playing her game plan, So I'm worried about blue heroes, kind of the same way, I get worried about all red heroes, like Dromai, Fi, right? Like they don't really have to struggle with deck building when their whole deck costs 0. So, I'm interested. Hopefully they don't make a new Prism and Prism 2 in Dromai because those heroes all are gonna go away. Even Prism 2 is kind of gaining a lot of popularity. So we'll see. Should we dive into your list?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's dive into your list and see what you've got cooking. Alrighty, so we got your list right in front of us right now, and it's quite the list, right? It's got a lot of things in the sideboard that is very reminiscent of the old days where you basically had an entire tech as a half your list.
Yep.
So right now you kind of got your tried and true standard equipment here at the top. I don't really think there's too much to talk about there, right? It's just our best stuff. But down here at the bottom, boom. This is the differentiator right here. So you want to run us down real quick what matchups you run club and which matchups you run claws?
Yeah, so I'm going to open up the heroes page over on Fabric on my other screen. So I can just I can just be like, there's so many heroes now.
I know, it's actually hard to remember sometimes.
Right? I occasionally have to do that just to be like, is my list missing anything? And I look at all the heroes. I'm like,
you forget like a super meta hero.
Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, Bolton kicks my ass. I forgot.
Oh yeah. Whenever he shows up, man, I hate that hero.
Okay. All right, so let's see. Club would go into like one of the major reasons I'm doing club is for Azalea. Even like I remember when I first got back into the game like 2 years ago, it was actually you and Chandler Toe both do very well, placed top 8, and Chandler Toe takes the whole thing at.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, it was cool.
And he was playing club at the time, and he was like, claws first, but club in the side, and he had it for certain matchups. One of those matchups was Rangers, and it made a lot of sense, and I practiced a lot like that for a long time. He also brought it into ninjas at that time as well, because Fi was a menace at the time. He was taking up a lot of space in my head. And club was great. Like, it just worked really well against Azalea. You just block, use your D-reacts well, and just hit him for 4 over and over again. Occasionally, you'd be like, here's a beatdown in a club. Take 4 or take 8. But, if you block with 2 cards, that's like all your gas. So they took 8. And it's like, it's cool running 3 extra swing bigs in deck. So Azalea, I'm actually literally just reading the list now. Azalea, Dash.io, Vi, Katsu, definitely, Kayo, Levia. I'm debating on Max. I'm not sure about Max. It doesn't take up enough space in my head for me to like.
Yeah.
We have Arc Smash, so it's like
you don't have.
I'm not worried about that. What's up?
You don't have it in here. Oh yeah, no, you do. Oh, you do. Okay, I thought I was looking for it. I was. It doesn't matter. That hero's invalidated by this card, so.
Like you could probably not even run Arc Smash and just like by you existing, they're just like I can't play Mechanoid. They'll Arc Smash me.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
it's even on the cutting block at some point if the meta
I can
calls
see
for
it.
it.
I can.
Let's see. I'm looking at the rest. I don't know. I wouldn't try to fatigue another Rhinar. So
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to club it. I'm going to claw into the other Rhinar. So the pure mirror,
Mm-hmm.
it's just claws
Makes
because
sense.
he's just going to intimidate your hand anyways. That's what we
Yeah.
do all the
The anti defense hero is not going to let you defend.
time. Oh, go figure. I haven't played enough Bolton with this new list to know whether or not I should go club. I want to try it for sure. I've done because that matchup is like really like dicey. Like I would call that a 45 when we're
Yeah,
trying to go.
Bolton can really grind you into the floor.
Yeah. So like a part of me wants to try club because they're gonna expect to go race and they're probably not gonna do sabers into Rhinar because they're like, oh, Rhinar's just gonna kill me too fast. I gotta do normal things. And then I'm like, no, I'm actually in here for the long haul. I'm gonna block out your 3 Luminas and staying alive the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the rest. I'm probably still going to aggro into Viserai. I would prefer to play club into Viserai if I knew they were playing aggro, but it seems like the defensive list is more popular.
Yeah, then you die on the spot.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, those are all the matchups. It's just like aggro matchups that we have struggled into in the past that just make more sense, like to just sit down and.
It makes sense to me a lot. Like, I mean, yeah, just give yourself a tiny little bit more of an edge into those bad matchups, and then like really kind of go that way. Don't rely on luck anymore. I like the idea. And so then you got your core list here, right? So there are 2 blues in the sideboard, but you do have like, what is this? How many blues is this?
Oh, there's 18 blues main, and there's 3 blues on the side. 1 extra copy of Warmongers, 2 hold the lines. The Warmongers comes in quite often, just because it's a blue 3 block. But it's kind of just it kept the numbers even, a 15 to put into the deck to finish it off, and then I often go extra cards, 63 to 66.
Okay, so makes sense. Makes sense. And then you do also have, so you're at 18 blues and 3, 6, 9 yellows. So your ratio is pretty light on the yellows also, but I mean, you do have agile windups here in the sideboard.
Yep.
Okay. So it's like you're tweaking the ratios a little bit, like a 1 extra blue, a couple less yellows, but it makes a lot of sense. And then you just have like your gas reds here, right? Like,
yep.
Is this because you're kind of still running the intimidate package relatively, like, with these 3, and then you have like your swing big and your blood rush enabler? Like, why'd you pick these reds?
So I've been playing a lot. Like my older lists were playing a lot of the 3-cost reds, like Massacre. I'm still playing Alpha Rampage, just not in the main. There's a few others. Like I was trying Agile Windup Red, Smash Instinct Red was in the list for a while.
Yeah.
It's really hard to finish off a Blood Rush like that.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I wanted to make this a list where I could play Pummel. So I started switching those 3-cost reds into 2-cost reds.
Makes sense.
So the 2 that got swapped out, the new additions were Rawhide Rumble and Skullcrack, because I felt that they bridged the gap between the 2 playstyles quite well. Mm-hmm. Skullcrack just being like generically good, like discarding into Blood Rush feels very good.
Yeah.
It's also a respectable, like it's just 2 cost 6.
Yeah.
And then Rawhide Rumble is the one that I was really excited to do in this one because its worst function is a 2 cost 6, which is the same, like it's like a classic Rhinar value. Yeah. But 2 cost 6 is really good when you're playing Pummel. So, you throw a Rawhide Rumble, you don't intimidate, you're just doing 2 cost 6, and they're like, whatever, I'll take 6. That's lame. Your deck sucks. And I'm like, that actually doesn't, because I'm going to pummel.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, I needed my hand. Yeah. What are you doing?
And I took 10 now. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, you took 10. Suddenly, I'm ahead on life. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to come back with this 3 or 4 card hand, depending on arsenal. And you're like, okay, and I'm just going to go back to blocking again.
Yeah, makes sense. You're completing your loop, right? Like
Yep.
I like it. And this also has the additional clause of like, oh, I have an extra card and I want to kill you right now, intimidate, right? Like, which is great.
Yeah. Between Rawhide Rumble, Show No Mercy, Alpha Rampage, Pack Hunt, those are all pitch stackable cards for when you have Barraging Beatdown Red in the list. You just pitch them for later. And then, look, like a classic pitch is like, I'll pitch Show No Mercy and a red Barraging for my club. And I'm like, here's 4. Don't worry about these.
Yeah, just ignore these. They're going to the bottom.
Don't worry.
They're not gonna
But
hurt you
then you
later.
don't.
Don't worry.
Then suddenly, yeah, they're already at 4, and then you say, here's 10 with 2 intimidates with no good options. Pretty
Yeah,
good.
I really like it. And the 2 cost strategy makes sense with Pummel. It makes sense for your club list. It's all clicking. And
Yeah.
these are your 3 best yellows. Are you finding Beasts Within to be more or less reliable?
I
No, you still love it?
I still like it. I think when I run it in the aggro clause list, I'm pretty happy. I am doing a lot more math nowadays when before I choose to discard it. Like, for example, if Azalea is making me discard from Codex, it's not an automatic snap throw Beast Within and bin.
Yeah.
You should probably count how many 6s you have in hand, arsenal, graveyard, and then try to remember if you pitched any yellows or any 6s along the way.
Yeah.
Guesstimate and then think, all right, I have. You have to do a bunch of math, and not like serious math. Like it's like armchair math.
Yeah, you're
but
estimating. Yeah.
You're estimating. You're like, how bad could this be if I discard this? Because obviously, I'd like the extra card back, but also, if I'm not gonna, I don't want to take 5 life off of it.
That's the worst.
That was the other thing that was really frustrating with my older list is that my Beast Withins, even with like 36 6s, it was still hitting me for like 4 to 6 damage and costing me games.
Yeah.
So I was just like, like I'm happy to do this in like the Guardian matchups and stuff, but when I'm playing these aggro matchups where I'm like hitting myself for 6, like that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I've thought about cutting Beast Within so many times, especially on the full Intim list. Like I think it did hit me for like 7 or 8, and I was like, this has got to go.
Yep. Yeah, I've experienced that as well. I think that it could be chopped. I could consider other cards over it. I would probably still want it to be a yellow 6 for ratios. I could look at like if a red 6 could take its place, but that's something I just haven't tried. Might be a little too light on yellows. They pitched to club.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make Blood Rush playable.
Okay, and then your blues are really good. You got a couple 2-loves in here though. So I guess my real question is, why do you value Talk a Big Game more than you value like Dig Up Dinner and Warmongers? Because that, to me, that's the only one that like stands out as like is like an interesting decision. Like it's like you kind of made that choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so there is a third Warmongers in the sideboard. So
okay,
I respect Azalea. Honestly, it comes in more often than it doesn't.
Okay.
Because it's just a blue block 3. My sideboard plan, when I go into claws, I just bring in the 3 extra blues from sideboard, just so I have 21 blues. Like I'm not trying to play Blood Rush with less than 21 blues. But in the club list, I don't have to bring in all my blues. I can be more picky. But there is definitely, like, I definitely made choices, like Talk a Big Game over a third Dig Up Dinner or some other blue, like, gosh, I don't know, like any of the Intim cards or anything, right?
Yeah, Clearing Bellow, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, High Roller for sure.
High Roller,
you're gonna roll that 6 and you're gonna kill them.
I've seen it happen.
I've done it. It's 1v games. It's 1 in 100, but it's so fun.
Yeah.
Talk a Big Game is an insane card, though. This card is absolutely amazing. My highest number I have achieved on it is 9, and I've done that twice. It's like every time I draw it in the hand and I can see like this hand's going to do damage, then I can start calculating, is Talk a Big Game able to net me 4 or more value, which like if a blue nets you 3, that's already above rate for a blue. Yep. If it nets you 4, it's a red. And the most common number it nets me is 5. So it's already above rate. So it's like it's a blue cast bones with Go again.
So what is your strategy typically to get yourself 5?
It's Blood Rush turns for the most part. Okay. So when you have extra blues in hand and one of them is Talk a Big Game, you can play Talk a Big Game, name 5, pitch a blue, play Blood Rush. Hopefully you're discarding a Beast Within for just that extra juice. Yep. But the list still runs quite a bit of Intimidate. So you're very likely to push away their hand in a way where 5's going to leak.
Okay.
But you name 5 because each claw is 5. So 5, go again. If this hits you for full damage, I get 5 mites. Okay, they block with a card. Here's 5 more. If any of this hits, I make 5 might. Or if all of this hits, I make 5 might. Okay, now here's 8 Intimidate.
Yeah.
You've already blocked with 2 cards. You're out of cards. how much equipment can you give me, and will it equal enough to block out the 5? And if it does, if it needs armor, then it's like, sweet, it's a blue that forced you to take up a bunch of armor. If it doesn't, then it's like, okay, here's 5 might tokens for my next turn, and then your next turn you like send us and lowest. The worst thing is like claw for 8, which is kind of
on a stick.
Yeah. And then on top of that, if you like pair it up with any of your barraging beatdowns and stuff, like you can get really insane damage. Or like, show no mercy at the end of a blood rush, 11. Like I think 5's gonna hit.
Yeah, I love it. I like that. That is a very overvalued blue.
Yeah, it can make some crazy amounts of resources, of might tokens. And if you're willing to gamble on it, you can do some stupid things. Additionally, I still have a bounty for myself to talk a big game, name 4, and then send us Command and Conquer. And it's like, what do you think's coming?
Yeah.
And then you pummel.
Yeah, I love that one. I love that was when this was first teased. That was my first thought was CNC pummel. It was like, because you could just tell them, you're like, are you gonna give me your whole hand, or am I gonna pummel you? You can choose.
Yeah.
And
as a blue, that's like amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like it's almost no cost to playing it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, and then in your sideboard, this is where the juice is gonna start coming together, right? So we got Alpha Rampage, Barraging Beatdown. So I'm assuming this is your like Intimidate package, right? So when are you bringing this in?
Definitely bring it in against Guardian, the Assassins, anyone who like really wants to block efficiently. Like even just a lone Alpha Rampage is quite good.
Yeah.
Because like against Victor, like Alpha Rampage, that's all you're doing. But like, oops, got your trounce. Oops, got your block card. Now you're just stuck having to block for 6, or here's Golden Sun Macho Grande.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll pitch a blue and my block card next turn. Yeah. Or just pitch a blue, hold the block card. Like if they say, okay, here's Titan's Fist, no Arsenal. I'm like, okay, now I know exactly what I did to you. Yeah. And that happens more often than you'd think.
Yeah, Intimidate does a lot of wonder sometimes. You can always hear your opponent like sigh in disbelief if you hit their block card for the 3rd time,
Yep. Yeah. I also like Alpha Rampage into Azalea because of Codex. It's a fantastic Codex target to finish the game with. Like, you're already playing a game where you're just defending and pummeling and just trying to get to the end, and you've been chipping them down and you have a life lead. And then suddenly it's like they finally get their Codex off, and then you decided, oh, look, Alpha Rampage is here. I blocked with this a million years ago.
Yep.
But now it's back to kill you.
Yep. It's also really good in the Red in the Ledger. Like,
yeah. Yep.
You let like 1 damage through, and then you send an Alpha Rampage back. Like you won that trade pretty hard,
Yeah. My partner would always groan when I would do that.
Yeah.
Like dominate Red in the Ledger 14. I'm like, okay, block 5 with Apex. Yeah. Here's Alpha Rampage for 10.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to attack for 3 no-go again.
Yeah, that's so funny. I would do that all the time to my buddy when he was playing Azalea. I was like, yeah, just, Red in the Ledger, Alpha Rampage, Okay, so you got your Intimidate package here. Then you've got your 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 D reacts here, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but you're bringing in, how many D reacts do you typically play on the claw side?
3.
3, yeah.
It's pretty variable. So
okay,
against Victor, I like to play the long game. So I'll bring in all of the D reacts plus claws because I know that he can fatigue quite well and just block really well, and I want to block out his things that he's counting on to give him value. So Unmovable still comes in, right? Because it blocks out a Terror Sunder just on its own from hand or from Arsenal, either way.
Yeah.
Sink Below, just in Fate Foreseen, they're just like 0-cost 4s. They're a ton of value, so you're playing the value game against Victor a little bit.
Yeah.
But you have this burst of Blood Rush, and you have this inevitability with Remembrance on top of that.
Yeah. Okay, so it's pretty variable, and that makes sense. Like, we can probably Rhinar players have been running 6 DRX for a long time into immovables, and it's like it depends on how aggressive. So I think it kind of fits in line. And then, do you run pummel ever in the claw side or only on the club?
I run pummel into the claw side in 2 matchups currently.
Nice.
Okay. Kano, because it's just better than Sink Below. The CNC pummel into Kano is quite good. like if you get rid of their Aether Wildfire out of Arsenal, you're probably winning that game, or their whatever combo piece they put in there 3 turns ago. And then into Riptide, I don't bring a single D-React because he's probably running Dreadbore, and I don't want to chance it.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, my semifinals was actually against a Riptide, and I went to use the bathroom because I just played a 2-hour fatigue game against a Kayo, and I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to like think. I was like, Riptide, what do I do? Because like against Azalea, I can fatigue Azalea on club now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Can I like Riptide doesn't even do as much damage? Can't I just do that to Riptide? And I started thinking, and then go and wash my hands, and I'm like, Dreadbore. Oh god.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's claw time. So I went full aggro, and I did some very unfair intimidate shenanigans. Like put him down to like 2 life very early, while I was still like 17, and just got there.
Was it a aggro Riptide or the mid range one?
It was like I think it was a mid range one. He was playing Dreadbore into that, so I was very glad I didn't do that.
Did he have the
he probably was also watching my game from before, so he's like, "Oh, this guy's super defensive."
Yeah. Was he on like the pumps, the 0 cost pumps, like Blood Rod and all that, or was he like was he just like 40 something D-Reacts or 30?
He wasn't too many D-Reacts. I think he was doing the pumps for sure. Like he was doing Seek and Destroy and Blood Rod and stuff.
Okay, so he's more aggro. Okay, cool. That's cool.
The average damage was about 7 or 10. I accidentally let through like one. He got one really good turn off with Endless Arrow. Like he did the whole Endless Arrow shenanigan.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot you can do that.
The go again.
Yeah, the go again thing. So it was like, you know,
I did that exact same thing the other day on Rhinar.
Yeah.
I was playing Rhinar and I was like, you can have that. It doesn't matter. And then he went go again. And I was like, no.
I like totally forgot. I forgot. Well, you're not Lexi.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do this.
So that happened, but then I was like, I think I took it. I forget if I like blood rushed right afterwards.
Okay.
It was fine. Like it didn't cost me the game at all.
Yeah.
But it was still like, oh shoot.
Yeah,
I'm giving you so much value off your equipment right now.
He wasn't played very much before, so it's easy to forget what he can do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got your pummels, and then you have your agile wind up yellows. When do you bring those in?
I bring them in the claw side of things.
Okay, makes sense.
The claw side of things, I'm bringing in those 3 blues, the Warmongers and the 2 Hold the Lines, and the 3 agile wind up yellows.
Okay.
To pump up my ability to pitch better. They were initially in the main board, but I just was like, why? I'm never wanting to bring this into my club deck because they block the 2, and like I'm not using agility. It's just not the kind of club deck that I'm building here.
Yeah.
This club deck is not the fun version of club. It's
yeah.
which I'm going to build on the side this season for fun because I just think it's an interesting list. But yeah, it just blocks for 2. It's too risky without much of a payoff. But in the claws list, it's perfect. Like,
it's beautiful. Yeah.
Like wind up, beat down, show no mercy. Yes.
Yes,
perfect.
Please. Yes, please. Okay, makes sense. I really like the list, right? And I think you're even nice enough to give us matchups. Wow, you are a generous human being. So for those of you at home, there are a lot of matchups. He even wrote up like like thoughts for each one. A lot of these matchups. It's really, really cool. Like you're so nice for sharing this. You're so nice for putting this out on the internet and putting it in the Discord. It was really cool. Do you have any like closing thoughts on the list of like maybe any changes you'd make, anything that you might alter, or like just like the generic your like thought process when you're trying to navigate the list? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, there's a couple cards out of the KO deck that I'm looking at. I think we already talked about it a little bit, but Skullcrack is going to be replaced with Strength Rules All. Strength Rules All fits the deck perfectly. You couldn't even ask. You can't ask for more like out of that card. It's just this is already a vanilla 6 that I was happy to run. And now I have a vanilla 6 sometimes, but most of the time Arsenal Destruction. So I will miss the gain resource every now and then. But for the most part, I'm just trying to play like a strong, disruptive game plan, like first. It's gonna like make my worst matchups better and hardly impact my better matchups anyways. Totally. I don't care about Skullcrack into Guardians that much, but I really don't care about Skullcrack into Katsu.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're back at it again. Another ProQuest winning Rhinar list. Incredible work. I can't believe it. And you did really well at Worlds too. Like I saw you killing it that first day. So it's
Yeah, I think that's PTLA. Yeah,
no Pro Tour LA. You're right. Sorry, not
I'm
Worlds.
working. I'm working on my worlds. I want to go there.
Oh, do it. I can't wait to see. You're going to be the first place Rhinar this time. You're not going to let a non Rhinar player take it. um, but thank you so much for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it. You're always such a amazing person to talk to and hang out with. And next time we're at one of these events, we're going to have to grab a beer or something together, grab some lunch at least.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but thanks for guiding the Brute community once again in the right direction.
Hell yeah, anytime.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Drew is back at it again. We'll see what his next iteration looks like because it's probably going to be awesome and maybe even revolutionary after these new cards come out. We'll see. We'll see. Have a great day.